Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Art Tipaldi. I'm the editor of Blues Music Magazine. This is our current issue we have, and you can check us out online at bluesmusicmagazine.com to see what kind of subscription offers we have, or you can go to our Facebook page and like us there. Today, we're here at Don Odell's Legends, and we have really one of the stars, if you will, of blues rock, probably for the last 30 years, maybe 40 years. 30 years. The great Tinsley Ellis with us, and you're going to enjoy his show. Tinsley, welcome to Don Odell's
It's
tonight.
great to be finally here. We talked about it for years, and here we are tonight.
Yeah, that's right. This is a great little venue here.
Sure is.
Now I've got your current album here, which is called Tough Love by Tinsley, and this is on your own label. This is your third release now on your label. What made you start a label?
Well, a couple of years ago, I had decided to do an all-instrumental album, which was called Get It.
Right.
And I really felt strongly about it, and the labels were skeptical about it, and it's just a pretty crazy idea, but I made it anyway.
Yeah.
And I sent it around, and a few labels, including Alligator, was interested in it. And I thought, I'll just put this out on my own label.
Right.
Start a label.
Right.
I've been thinking about it for a while. And I always had the feeling that if it didn't succeed, I could blame it on the fact that it was all instrumental and have a good out clause. Yeah. But you know what? It did really well critically, and it sold. And I did another one last year called Midnight Blue. And this year I did Tough Love.
Yeah.
So I'm starting to see things from the record company's point of view. It's a lot harder than I thought it would be.
Right. Is this a good time? Was the timing right for you to start a label? Because of things like social media and Facebook? I don't know if that stuff helps or not, but would this have been a better time than, say, in the 90s to start?
Much better time. The biggest turning point in my career is when I got with Alligator Records, and you remember that, back in 1987.
Yeah.
And that was, when it comes to blues labels, in my opinion, there's Alligator Records and then there's all the rest.
Right.
And I found that out the hard way.
Yeah.
But I sort of modeled my label. If I come to a crossroads or turning point in a decision, I think about what would Bruce Iglauer do,
right.
And then the answer becomes very clear.
Sure.
And he's all about supporting the tours and things like that. So it's real important for me to stay out of here on the road and create these kind of promotional opportunities.
Right.
Now, in terms of, is this a good time? Yes, it is a good time to have a label because retail, the Tower Records is no more,
right.
and which is a real shame. And Borders Books, that was our biggest retail outlet for years. And of course, it was strange because if you want to buy a CD, you buy it at a bookstore.
Yeah.
If you want to buy a book, you buy it at the airport. So it's all crazy.
Yeah.
But those are gone now, and those are things that are in the past. And so now we have things like the internet.
Right.
The store never closes. It's never been better for the listener. The store never runs out of product. Whether you're buying actual copies on a website of a CD or if you're just downloading, anytime, day or night, you can get the music. Never been better for the listener. A little harder for the label. So it's adapt or die.
Yeah. That's right, because without those other outlets, with distribution, you don't need the distribution of a major label. You could be doing that, as you say, 24 hours a day.
That's right.
On your own website, on your Facebook page, as you're out touring. It's not that worry of I need distribution.
That's true.
Yeah.
And we do have distribution through my ex-old label, Landslide Records, Michael Rothschild in Atlanta.
Okay.
And he knows the distribution business as well as anybody. He's been doing it since the 70s.
Yeah.
We're very cautious. We don't want a bunch of them coming back. But you know what? With digital sales, they never come back. A sale is a sale.
Yeah.
So I'm learning as I go along, and
Yeah.
I'm starting to think about doing other artists, recording
Oh,
other
cool.
artists.
Nice idea. Yeah. What are the disadvantages of having your own label?
It's a lot more time consuming than I thought. The very first album I did on Heart Fixer Music was Get It. And it just seemed like every day there was a new form to fill out, a new fee to pay, a new person to hire. It ate up a lot of time that I really should be spending writing songs, which is what I actually do.
Right.
The second album went a lot easier, a lot quicker because I already knew some of the timetable issues that I would have. And then the third album, even easier than that. The costs have gone up a little bit, but I need to make sure I can spend as much time behind my guitar as possible and behind the wheel of the van.
Yeah,
Because really I'm a driver by trade.
Right,
I just hop out every once in a while and play some music.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's more time consuming than I thought it would be.
Yeah,
That's the downside.
That's true, because you can fall into that trap of getting, sitting behind the computer and just working all day, and then you don't get the chance to be the artist and write a song.
Really true.
Yeah, yeah. Well, what advice would you give to young bands out there today in this, with this idea of starting your own label and putting out yourself versus going after the golden,
the big
golden
record,
ring,
the elusive big record deal.
Yeah.
Well, back in the day, that's all we talked about, is getting signed.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I was signed with Alligator, and I left there to go with the big record deal with Capricorn Records, who promptly went out of business as soon as I put out the album. Which that's sort of that's sort of a fate a lot of blues artists go through. Otis Rush went through the same thing. In fact, he had a song called "Right Place, Wrong Time."
Yeah, yeah. And
that's sort of been a moniker of what happens to blues artists to get the major deal.
Sure.
But the advice I would give would be for blues acts or for any act is to write your own material.
Yeah.
Because then you're telling your own stories and not telling somebody else's stories. And then the other advice I would give, and it goes along with that, is to develop one's own sound. Because remember when I would call it the golden era of blues post Stevie Ray Vaughan, where you had Albert Collins.
Yeah.
If Albert Collins came on the radio, you knew who it was right off the bat.
Right. Yeah.
When Jimmy Reed would come on radio when I was much, much younger, you knew it was Jimmy Reed.
Right.
These men and women had their sound.
Yeah.
They had their own. When Coco Taylor sang, you knew immediately who it was, even if you didn't know the song.
Sure.
So I would say that hand in hand with writing one's own material would be coming up with your own sound.
Yeah, yeah. And you have both of those things. Are you writing more now than you did back early on?
Yes,
I am.
It seems like
when I look through your catalog, there's more Tinsley Ellis originals on records than
lately. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, in about 20 years ago, when little Johnny Lang did my song,
yeah, I was going to ask
and
you
he
about
sold
that.
a couple million copies of it.
Yeah.
That got my attention.
That gets it real fast.
Yeah, and for more than just the financial aspect of it, because all of a sudden I had that validation of having a multi-platinum album with featuring a song of mine.
And by the way, the song was "A Quitter Never Wins."
A Quitter Never Wins, right?
Yeah.
And so after that, I started taking songwriting a lot more seriously because then you're able to leave your mark.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I got into right after the awful 9/11 happened, and all of a sudden people stopped going out more, stock market crashed, people worried about, it was a lot more of a healthy scene for live music in general prior to that. It's coming back now.
Yeah, yeah.
But I had a lot of free time, and I started thinking, what am I going to do? And I even glanced at the WAN ads, and I couldn't find a single other occupation I could do. So I took a course in computer recording and learned how to record in Pro Tools in the computer.
Yeah.
Prior to that, it was mixing board, a rack of equipment. Now it's all in my laptop, and so I can make my own albums.
Okay.
And I'm so glad I learned to do that, and it makes recording fun too.
Yeah, yeah. As a writer, how do you stay fresh after 30 years?
Well,
what's the secret to that?
If I designate time for songwriting, I end up just sitting around watching the Weather Channel all day. When a song comes to me, I need to get it out as quick as possible. Like we riding down the road, so next thing you know, I have my cell phone and I put it on voice recorder and I'm singing a song into the cell phone. When the songs come out, you got to get them right then and there.
Yeah, yeah.
And I just have a lot of, I guess I just have a lot of songs, and I can remember back in the day I would write, it was real important to at least have half the album be original material. And now I'm being able to choose from 30 or 40 songs to wean it down to an album's worth of material.
Right, right. And then once you talk it into your iPhone, how do you decide what musical style to go with those lyrics?
Well,
I mean, we know you as a blues rocker,
right.
and you once told me you called your music blues for the hearing impaired.
Oh my God, terrible thing to say.
Oh,
but
I remember.
not untrue.
You said you had two settings,
On and that,
and what you just heard.
Yeah, right. That is true.
But this CD sounds a little mellower. It doesn't.
So I'm told.
Yeah, it really
Yeah.
seems like you found a nice mellow place musically.
Well, you know, I have my own studio,
Mhm.
and I'm so much more relaxed there than I am in the expensive studio where
Mhm.
I'm watching the clock and thinking, what did that cost me just then?
Yeah.
I can go down there with a cup of coffee. Coffee's always involved in
Okay,
my recording
okay.
process. Go down there with a cup of coffee and sit at the Wurlitzer piano and play and write songs and make my albums down there and
Yeah.
not have to watch the clock.
Right.
If I'm not feeling prolific, I don't have to be.
Yeah.
There's no timetable or pressure
Right.
with when I have to finish an album.
Yeah.
I don't have to turn it in by a
Right.
certain time
Right.
to a record company because I am the record
Yeah, that's
company.
right.
And
Yeah.
I don't make very harsh demands upon myself.
Yeah.
So
Other than good coffee.
I gotta have coffee.
Yeah.
You know, the worst cup of coffee I ever had wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
So unless we're decaf, and that doesn't do much for
Yeah.
me. But you know, I'm just really enjoying the whole recording, songwriting process.
Right.
And they asked Woody Allen one time what his favorite part about making movies was, and he said it was the writing of them,
Mm-hmm.
because then it was just him and the manuscript, nobody else hearing it, and he falls in love with the story.
Yeah.
And doesn't have to send it to a movie studio for their critique,
Right.
or to his executive producer for their critique.
Yeah.
And that's my favorite part, is when I'm writing the song.
Yeah.
Then when I start playing for other people and they tell
Yeah.
me stuff about the songs that I don't want to hear,
Right.
not as much fun.
Yeah.
So I look forward to the end of this tour in April, where I have a few weeks,
Mm-hmm.
get down there and start working on the
Again.
next album.
Very nice.